What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Around the ACL. It's Michelle Thompson here, and I am with Anthony Ione and Mike Morton. We are going to hold it down today, but we're super excited to talk about the Open that happened this weekend. Lots to dive into. A little bit of a different show format this week, but it'll still be fun. So thanks for joining us in this, less than traditional episode. That's what we do.
I was gonna be like, Trey, you really grew that beard in, man, when the screen popped up. So
Exactly.
I've been around Trey so much, I'm starting to look like him.
Or you know what? Yeah, let's see. Should I move? There we go. Now you're really Trey.
Hey, top left. There he is. At the
Top left.
That's even more like Trey Ryder.
Nice. So what is this about? You've been spending a bunch of time in the HQ, or what's going on?
Maybe not enough. I don't know. We'll find out.
Sounds good.
Either too much or not enough.
So I don't think any of us. Were you in Kentucky, Mike?
I was.
Oh, you were there. Okay, I don't think any of us were there. Okay, so you were there. That's awesome. So you can give us your take on it and being there live. I did get to watch almost all of it this weekend. And to me, there was a few storylines. I'm not going to talk about them all, but I'm just going to list them. Courtney Coy, Donald Cupp, Richards Lopez, Wooten, Caden Allen, Logan Chamberlain. Those are the people that really stood out to me. So I'm excited to dive into it. But anyone else that you just want to shout out that really stood out to you guys this past weekend?
I'd like to give a shout out to Yeti Irwan, my partner for the Colorado State Championships.
Well, there you go.
I played some cornhole this weekend, Mish.
What?
Yes, a rare occasion.
And
it was a good time. We have our we kind of do an annual just state tournament, where everybody comes in. So, like the Whitney Martinez is coming in from the mountains. She's way out in the mountains, like 4.5 hours away. Colorado Springs is like 2 hours south, all the way up to the top. Colorado is actually a pretty big state. So like 2 hours north into Fort Collins. I mean, you could probably drive almost 8 hours in the diagonal and still be in Colorado.
Wow.
So it's a pretty big state. But it was a good time. It all went down in Denver, run by a Mile High Cornhole. And Yeti's a beast, man. I don't have a normal partner because I just can't commit to people, because I don't play enough. But I hit up Yeti and Harry Stoltzfus, if you don't know, is an ex-pro, hell of a bagger, Yeti's husband. I didn't know this, but I hit up Yeti and I was like, I don't know where Harry's at anymore, if he's playing or not. But if you're available, I'm available. She's like, give me a couple days to figure it out. She hits me back and she's like, let's do this. Harry shows up to the state tournament and he goes, what the hell, man? You still in my partner?
She traded you for her own husband?
I was like, oh man, I my bad. And he was like, nah, I'm just playing. So we had a good run. We took third. Nice. Clearly she's the muscle and I'm just trying to do what I can to get the bags back to her. But we ended up taking third overall to some really good baggers out of the state of Colorado. So,
wait, just to make it worse, when's the last time you played in a tournament before that one?
It was a while, actually, leading up to this. Every weekend I get on the show and it's like, hey, I played basketball. My kid was in basketball. He tore his PCL. Oh. So all of a sudden our schedule opened. I didn't realize how many hours I was in gyms until his knee went out. It was like, oh my gosh, I got all kinds of time.
Oh, you practiced then?
I've been practicing for a couple weeks. Me and Yeti did like a dry run tournament. What was it? Last weekend we did a tournament together just to kind of feel it out a little bit. So I was like, oh, I missed this game. So it was a good time.
Yeah.
Well,
Anthony won't go over the top of this, but Colorado is an up and coming state. Third place finish there is absolutely impressive. They're coming on like gangbusters. They're one of the highest growth areas as far as I'm concerned. And Yeti, man, what bags is Yeti throwing now?
So she just signed with Ultra. That was actually announced today.
Okay.
She's teaming up with Danny Seals for the upcoming season. So she'll be transitioning into the Ultras now, but she was sponsored by Swag Bags last year.
That's right.
No, she's been really coming on strong lately. One of my women to watch for this year.
No doubt. Yeah, she's putting the work in. It's definitely showing.
Yeah.
Well, then big congratulations. I should have added you to one of my storyline bullet points, Anthony, and Anthony Ione and Yeti Irwan, right there with the Caden Allen and Wooten and all those guys.
Yeah, more Yeti Irwan and me kind of holding on to the back, you know. It was like just she's dragging me along, but we did some work. We did some work.
Anthony Ione starring as the bag returner.
Someone's got to do it.
No doubt.
All right. And Mike, what were any any standouts from your weekend, whether it had to do with the Open or not?
Well, you mentioned a lot of them there, and you know, later on I'm going to talk a bit about consistency as I went through and I compared Rock Hill finishes with the Louisville finishes to see who's kind of trending upwards and downwards as far as players that have played in both of those events so far. It's real early in the season, but anyway, we'll talk about some consistency. You mentioned some of the players, Caden Allen, just my goodness, that he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for a long time to come. And then, you know, maybe my biggest event of the weekend was I actually played at an Open for the first time in it might have been like 3 years.
Wow!
And, just when I thought I was ready,
this weekend,
just when I thought I was ready though to play in an Open, I proved how unready I was. I might have had the lowest PPR in the entire building. I'm not sure, but I was in the running for it. And I know I'm not that bad of a thrower, but that's what happens when you turn the lights on and it's time to go. So I had a lot of fun. Me and Brooks Miller from SIVA at the very last minute decided to do a bag maker collab team. So we threw his bags one game and then we threw my bags one game and back and forth. And I don't recommend that strategy if you're trying to finish.
Yeah, the reason why we don't do that.
Yeah. But it was a lot of fun.
Okay, good. All right. Well, like I said, a lot of good cornhole this weekend. If you guys want to start with women's, obviously the standout player being Courtney Coy, not just on that day, but to me the whole weekend. Really, really impressive player. So, Anthony, what are your thoughts on the women's side of what happened?
Yeah, before getting to women's, I just kind of I like a big picture thought before we get into the specifics, because I mean, just taking a moment to really recognize all of that amateur talent. And we really get a glimpse of it, right? So when we work through rounders, this establishes the tiering. And for those not familiar, maybe I'll just kind of describe that for a second. But every doubles team will play 6 games, and we call that a rounders format. So after those 6 games, your record will decide what tier or skill level you get assigned to for the bracket portion of the tournament. So, for example, there were 268 teams this weekend. That led to enough teams to fill up 3 tiers, or essentially 3 different skill level brackets. So we call them tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So tier 1 is going to be those teams that go 6-0, 5-1, some of the 4-2s. And then you move into your tier 2, you're going to get the balance of those 4-2s that didn't make tier 1, some of the 3-3s, and then your tier 3 is the rest of the field. It's going to be your 3-3s all the way down to your defeated teams or your 0-6s. Now, here's for me where the amateurs talent really shows itself, and it shows when pros are slightly off their game that the amateur talent is just good enough to snatch up wins. So finishing 99th in rounders, going 3-3, Jimmy McGuffin and Damon Dennis. They end up in tier 2, right? Now,
I couldn't believe it.
Are they tier 2 level players? Hell no, they're not.
No.
But on that day, for whatever reason, the amateur players got the best of them. A Caitlin Ham, talking about the ladies, a Caitlin Ham and a Maddie McBride down there in tier 2. These are ladies that have outplayed some of the best in the world on numerous occasions, going 4-2, ending up 77th ranked after rounders. A Tyler Cobb and a Kobe Costanza also finding themselves, right? And we were talking about them being a top 20 team. You've got Getty and Crabtree down there. Stop playing. Trevor Brooks and Steven Bernasette, as well as Cameron Presley and Andrew Guy. In my opinion, these are really strong teams ending up down there in that tier 2, and the list really goes on. So to me, it's not new anymore, right? We saw it last year, and I think it says way less about the skill status of the high-level pros. They're still high level. It just shows that they floor just enough that the ceiling of amateurs were able to pick it up. And I think it does say more, though, about the improved overall talent of the amateur field. We saw Wooten down there last year. Schermerhorn early last season. Finley in tier 3, I believe it was earlier this season, just to name a few. Those are still elite level players and some of the best players on the planet. But on those days, the amateurs really showed that there's some legit unseen talent out there. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Mike, on just the whole idea of amateur talent and how it's improving?
Oh, it's absolutely insane. You just don't know when you step up to the board anymore. Just because you haven't heard of the name does not mean you can take anyone lightly. It's absolutely scary. I had a conversation, and I'm going to leave the pro nameless for their own protection, or maybe for my protection. But I had a conversation last year at one of these events, and the conversation went along the lines of, well, if I make tier 2, I'm just not even going to play in it. Like, it's embarrassing. I'm just not going to do it. And the conversation I had with him was, well, you and I get along pretty well, and I've got your back. We're tight. But if you do that, any relevance I have in the cornhole industry, I will use to roast you like there's never been a roasting before. Because you're going to end up in tier 2 if you play in enough of these. It's just bound to happen. The talent level is getting too insane. It's not even that you're going to play poorly in any of them. Maybe the breaks just go against you. You draw a Windsor, a Windsor Hicks in the first round, or you just get a couple bad breaks, and the next thing you know, you find yourself in tier 2. And I just think it's incredibly, important if that happens, to keep a brave face on and just make lemonade out of lemons and go down there and do the best you can in tier 2 and play the string out. But no, there's nothing assured anymore. So many top tier teams have been in tier 2. And like Anthony mentioned, even tier 3 before. Tier 3 had former ACL pro Ron Kugel and Isidro Herrera in it this time.
Yep, saw that. Yeah, and you see the posts all the time, right? Like, I threw a 10.62 and lost. Like, you see those posts all over Facebook and Twitter. Like, it's the reality. And the making one of those tiers is just based on wins or losses. So you could have lost 20-21. And then, so it doesn't mean you played poorly, as you said. And it's really important to keep your ego out of that and just play your game.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're seeing it at, like you said, Colorado, a growing state. I ran into that in the state championship. My loss in singles, someone threw a 10-9. I mean, to throw that in Colorado, there's only a few baggers that can do that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you're even seeing it at that level. But hey, Mike, if you're willing to divulge, was this mystery pro, was his last name Morton too by chance?
No, because actually Matthew and Ian made tier 2 in Florida last year. It happened to them.
See?
Put the brave face on and you go down there and do the best you can. And I think the pros go one of two different ways in tier 2. They either buckle on their chin strap and they go to war and they say, well, we don't want to be here. We're going to destroy the field. Or they are sort of in shock, like what just happened, and their head's not really in it, and they don't even do very well in tier 2. Right. And to be frank, that's what happened with Matthew and Ian last year. They went that ladder route. I thought they played well in the rounders. A couple bad breaks, lost to a couple good teams. They ended up in tier 2, and I think they went 0-2 or 1-2. Just their heads weren't in it. They didn't want to be there. Credit for playing the string out, but I think the pros have to learn that it's going to happen to them. Maybe
some of them need a little bit of a humble pie, and that's a good way to get it. You get the tier 2, tier 3, you're like, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, and you know what? That brings up a good point. If you guys saw Damon Dennis's post, so we talked about him as one of the. I love his style. That's exactly what he said in his post. He said, hey, you're going to eat some humble pie every once in a while. It makes you realize you got to stay on your game. And he just remained positive through that. And I think that's what you have to do, even as an elite level player, finding yourself down into tier 2. You work your way through it, and then you show up to the next one and you just kill it. You
learn. Yeah, you're like, that's not going to happen again. Not that it's in our control, right? We can only do our very best, and sometimes someone's best is better than your best. And it's just the day, it's just the round.
And all right, the pros are understanding that the first battle, when they show up at these things, the first battle is to make tier 1. Yeah. That's your first win of the day, is to make tier 1, and it's no longer assured.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I totally agree. All right, going into women.
I was going to say that's probably a good lead into women's. Just again, just talking about how much talent in there. Allison Peters, one of the 32 to qualify this year on her own, second to last place in the women's division. So you're even seeing the talent within the women's division only going up. Abella taking 13th. Maddie McBride, who has shown herself in the championships of these type of formats, she also takes 13th. Interesting, if I rewind like maybe a year and a half ago, it was like a year and a half ago, I first saw Maddie McBride and Ham at one of the USAC events in Nashville, Tennessee. Maddie looked like the standout player, and a couple tournaments after that, she kind of seemed like the standout player. I feel like that role is reversed. I feel like Ham now is really showing that she is the player within those two, and she showed it again this weekend. Cameron Belvin taking 9th. I mean, I would have picked her in the finals, if not final 3. I mean, she's on the way up. Kimberly Glass, if you saw some of the stats she was putting up, did you see some of those, Mike?
I did. That's one of the people that I wanted to specifically call out. I think 4 of her first 5 games, she averaged over a 10 PPR. She was just throwing some heat.
And that's not a name that we say a lot. And if we rewind maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I feel like we will. She was an ESPN presence maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I feel like she's kind of working her way back there. Maybe we get a different Kimberly Glass this year. I mean, those numbers, you cannot deny those type of numbers.
Mm-hmm. Can we say parity coming to the women's division? Is it time to say that?
Maybe.
I love Cheyenne Renner to death, but we're getting a lot of contenders for the crown now.
Yeah. That was my prediction for this season. I said, I think we're going to start to see, Cheyenne Renner's really kind of on an island at the moment, like kind of untouchable in a way in the women's side of things. And it does feel like that gap is going to start closing. I think people are really starting to focus on the mental side, because I had like a conversation with a lot of these female pros. I said, the gap between you and Cheyenne, skill wise, it's not that big for a lot of you.
Right.
But the confidence she has and the experience she has of all those wins, and especially going so far in not just the women's side, but the mixed side, that kind of confidence that breaches is going to be hard to touch. So you got to up the mental game. You got to meet that level of confidence.
You're absolutely right, Mish. The mental part of it comes into play. And I had somebody ask me to look into some stats, which I haven't had a chance to do yet, but I thought this was very interesting. With all of the women starting to pick their game up and throw very well, and all the 10 PPRs and above and upper 9 PPRs that happened just this weekend in the women's division, it's going to be curious if I can go back and do this. I'd like to see what happens to the women that are averaging, say, a 9.8 in women's when they hit the open field, because I feel like we're not seeing those same scores. So I can explain a portion of that because there are not a whole lot of blockers in the women's division.
Yeah.
So your PPRs are going to be a little higher because no one's messing the board up for you.
Sure.
But is a part of that a little bit of nerves and maybe intimidation? They throw very well in the women's division, and then they get over to the open division and maybe they let up a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I feel like there's definitely a drop off in the PPR performance anyway.
There is, and that I agree with you. I think it is could be a dirtier game, but there's also stereotype threat, which is a real psychological thing, which happens when there's a dominance of something in anything. And we have a male dominant field here in cornhole. And so there's just this threat that's unconscious. You don't have to believe it. It's still there, and it still affects the game. And I actually had a conversation with these women last month on what this is and how to combat it. Like, it's there. There's a stereotype threat. It exists. And what do we do with it? And I think that a lot of them said it was helpful. Now, I don't know how many pros showed up for that talk, but a lot of our advanced and competitive players found that to be very helpful. But that's what we're seeing, and from my perspective, on the gap.
Yeah, because you take some of those 10 plus PPRs that the ladies are throwing in the women's division, and if you take that exact game and transfer it over to the open division, we should really start to see a surge in the women's finishes. We really should see that.
Correct.
Yeah, and to finish off my thought in singles on the idea of PPR, if we looked at the first 2 opens, Samantha Finley's numbers are pretty insane.
She's right there every time.
Yeah, we've been kind of joking about it on the side, but it's like, how long can you go with those type of numbers and not start rattling off a bunch of wins? She's just having some tough breaks. in
Her
the
losses
bracket.
were close though, right? 22-19. What were her other one? I mean, I know they were all right there. They were close.
No doubt. And then just that last thought on PPR. People, we're not talking about I threw a 10 plus in 6 rounds in one doubles match.
Right.
We are talking about a Courtney Coy throwing a 10.08 in 105 rounds. So you are demonstrating high level, elite level play. It's the consistency that matters there. I would rather throw a 10.08 through an entire tournament in 100 plus rounds than get one game of an 11,
right?
And then the rest fall off with high 8s. You know, it's that consistency through a whole tournament that's going to matter.
Well, at the end of the day, wins matter. So you're not going to be winning many games in some of those lower PPRs. So
the most important
you got to win more than one.
W's.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most important stat right there. Mike, any thoughts on the women's side?
No, we've kind of hashed over it pretty well. My final point would be Courtney Coy. Everyone loves a comeback story. This is the Courtney Coy of old, plus some more. Like, she is just looking so solid out there. And, you know, I just feel like the cornhole world had almost buried her for the last year or two. She just didn't seem to be the same player. And the world was moving on without Courtney Coy, and they learned to live without her in the women's division as a formidable presence. And just when you start to think that she's out of the mix, this season, she is just a beast, just impressive. So hats off to Courtney.
And she was throwing, just to confirm, she was throwing a carpet bag, right?
I don't remember what she was throwing.
Okay.
I can't imagine she'd be throwing something else, but I don't actually remember what she was throwing either.
I want to say she was. I just remember the women's tournament finished up first. And we put an emphasis last week on the whole idea of will this be the year of the carpet bag? That was one of our topics last week. So when I want to say it was carpet, because my first thought was like, all right, first tournament done. We got a carpet winner. Is that a sign? Is that foreshadowing the rest of the season? So I kind of kept a close eye on it throughout the entire season. And I don't know if this, you know, when do we say this is the year of the carpet bag? Because if you look at 268 doubles teams, like I was saying, I promise you carpet bag is in the minority. So you're at a disadvantage just because of the sheer numbers. But when you looked at I did do a count across the entire division, all 4 brackets of singles, 1st through 5th place. So you're going to have a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 2 5ths. So you get 6 per bracket. That's 24 players. Exactly half were carpet baggers. So.
Well, you know, you're not going to see many carpet bags is in the senior division. And so
who's doing it? Mike, is there any senior throwing a carpet bag? Who is it?
No, I ran into one the other day, and now I can't remember who it was. But there are, because they pointed out to me. We've talked about this before, and they pointed out to me that yes,
Deborah Odom, but she wasn't there. But Deborah Odom, if she plays seniors, which it happens at the same time as women, so she typically plays women's. But Deborah Odom is a carpet bag thrower.
Yeah,
there you go.
No doubt.
There's one.
And why is that? I mean, maybe for the new people out there, why is that? So a carpet game requires work, right? It requires, I mean, you are not going to just be pitching 400 bags a day. You're going to be pitching 400 tough bags all day.
By day 3, you're icing your shoulder if you're over the age of 50.
That's true.
In addition, it's a skilled bag. I mean, you have to come in flat. Why throw a carpet bag if you're not going to take advantage of the ability to shape shots, to be able to cut, to be able to do these things? Throw something else then. And I think that's why right now, at least, carpet is in the minority because it takes time to build that skill set. It is harder work, but once you master it, like we're seeing some of these young kids do, it really is a valuable skill set in this game and could be the future. I don't know. It might be fast bags forever, but I'm crossing fingers.
Me too.
That we at least keep the carpet game in the game and it doesn't get weeded out completely.
The one thing that I will say is, Anthony, you said, when do we say that this is the year of the carpet bagger? I promise you it's not going to be October, November timeframe. We won't know this until maybe February, March. We'll start to get a sense for whether it's going to really be a carpet year or not.
Agreed. But continuing on with the seniors side of things, Damon Dennis did take the win there. Frank Motlin wasn't there to challenge him. So, curious to see how those two keep playing out in the senior division and who keeps taking the wins there, or if someone else steps up. But guess who almost did step up? The Donald, or what did Bernie call him? The Don?
Man, the Don.
Donald Cup making a run. What are your thoughts, Anthony?
Yeah, so this is your 102nd ranked player from last season. We took the top 100 to re-qualify as pro. He was 102, so he's right out there. This dude can fill up the hole. I mean, if you I don't have his stats in front of me. Maybe you do, Mike. Last I looked, I want to say he was like mid-10s. I mean, it was really, really high. The guy was throwing at an insane rate, and still somehow with Cup essentially sealing, throwing his best, Damon Dennis still able to pull out another single title.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
Anything
Donald's been showing resurgence over the last, I would say, 6 months or so. It's been a different Donald Cup.
Absolutely. We'll see if he continues there as well. All right, let's move into our doubles side of things. As my dog is trying to break out of my office, I'm going to take care of that. Anthony, talk about doubles.
Okay, yeah. So maybe I'll just kind of look to last week. You know, what did we say we were watching for, and then what actually happened? So, Mike, I'm going to start with, and you might have some insight here. We've got the Ryans, right? We've got Alec Ryan and David Ryan that we talked about. Will Dad keep up? Will he be able to match his son's level of play so they can be a strong doubles partnership moving into the season? Well, the answer is yes. Again, back to back. Fourth in their bracket. They shut out a Danny Seals and a Cripps. They took down a Brandon Jones and a Travis Purser, who were also on my watch list. And they took the best team in the world, Richards and Lopez, to 19-18. What do you think about this father-son combo, man? I mean, they're looking solid.
I did not have a chance to see them this weekend, but reverting back to Rock Hill, I'll say it again. I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. They're the real deal. They are to be contended with this year. David every bit kept up with Alec, and in some cases was out throwing Alec. And if that continues, this is a top 20 team. I promise you that. They have got the talent.
Here's what's cool about watching them play as a student of the game, someone who sees, you know, stylistics and techniques and stuff like that. Complete opposite. So you're gonna have you're gonna have
over the bag, right? David does.
Yeah, two sides to the bag.
Not only are they throwing opposite sides of the bags predominantly, but Alec Ryan is gonna throw your standard, you know, flat to throwing hand side tilt that you see from most carpet baggers. That gives him the ability to roll and cut. And then the opposite is basically what I call the weak side release. You're releasing in a handshake position, the opposite tilt. So Alec is working shaping shots with a stick side. Dad is working straight line to the hole, weak side release, basically your senior style release with the slick side. Two different games with the same bag, and it's somehow successful for them.
Yeah, it's amazing. Because that's not easy to do.
No, I'm still trying to throw a weak side handshake release because sometimes I want to cut in the other direction.
Right.
Once you've trained yourself to really release in that dirty style release, it's hard to go the other direction. You're like, I forgot how to do that, because most of us start out that way because it's easy.
Yeah. Interesting.
Moving into my second one, Brandon Brown and John Fuentes. I said last week I didn't understand this partnership from the beginning. It actually caught me off guard out of left field. I see Fuentes as a top 50 player. Brandon Brown, he's still working on his game. He's still improving coming out of the PDC. Yeah, it didn't go so well for them. They went 1-2. They took a first-round loss to Courtney Coy and Nicole Pratt. So still trying to figure out, you know, what's going on with that new partnership. Kingfisher and Soprenit. I said last week, these guys are going to be sneaky good. I said, look out for Kingfisher. He was 7-1 in the qualifier. Did not disappoint. They took a second-round loss and then rattled off 5 in a row with a big win over Foreman and Creek Killer, a top 10 team in the doubles last year. They pull out a win over them. Did you get a chance to watch those two at all, Mike, or have any thoughts on that young partnership?
No, I also didn't get a chance to watch them. Unfortunately, even though I was there all weekend, I was running a vendor booth for much of it.
Yeah.
So I got to see the boards
Mike,
that
I
were in
call
front of
that
my
jail.
booth.
When I run a vendor booth, I'm in jail.
We did have some boards right in front of my booth, though, so I did get to see quite a bit.
Good.
But I was reliant on what matches were put in front of me.
Got it.
Eric Anderson, Timmy Jonas. We said last week, Anderson telling me these guys are coming. He said they're both much improved and they're going to be a partnership to look out for. At first glance, I was like, that's an interesting combo. You know, I still seek Eric Anderson as an elite level talent. He didn't show it last year, but I still think he could be right back there in the mix. Timmy Jonas improving. But guess what? They definitely exceeded expectations. They made it to the final match out of the right to get to the king seat. That would basically the match right before the king seat. They were up 18-3 on Hissner and Henderson, who also did really well this weekend, by the way.
Yeah.
Couldn't close it, but they were right there, 18-3 to get to the king seat match. Still a notable run for them. And they took down one of our top 10 to 15 teams that both me and Trey said would be out there, Justin Burton Jr. and Logan Chamberlain. So that's a real notable win for those guys. Neisted and Schermerhorn, I said, we expect them to do well. We wanted to see it. They were one of the 4 teams to go 6-0 in rounders. They had a tough loss, 20-20 loss to get to the king seat. They take 5th overall, still a really strong run and an opener for the season for me, at least, showing that they can be as dominant as we think they can. Any thoughts on those guys, Mike? Did you get a chance to see them, or just general thoughts on those teams?
I did see them for just a moment, and the moment that I saw them, I think they buried like 12 or 16 bags in a row between the two of them. They were looking really solid. So yeah, I think they've got a bright future. I think they've still got a few things to prove as far as their chemistry together. When the pro season starts, we'll see how that goes. But I thought they looked good from what I could see.
Nice. Talked a little bit about the Hunt brothers last week. Trey Hunt and Bobby Hunt. We're going to call them the Hunt brothers, by the way. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. Not the start they were looking for. 17th in bracket. Honestly, I still think they got a lot more to show. And Bobby Hunt did show some of that in singles. But I think as a partnership, they could still step up and do some work. Kano and Wooten. We said no Hunter Thorne last week.
Kano. Right? I'm going to get everybody saying Kano.
I went from Kano to Kano, but it's Kano.
Yeah. We're there now.
We're there.
We're trying.
Yeah, so I said last week I wouldn't be surprised if they won a bracket. Well, they almost did. They took the king seat, so they ended up taking the king seat of that. Waited for the losers bracket to finish up. They I don't know. I just feel like that this team individually they could do a ton of work in singles, but right away seeing them come in as a partnership, I was excited to just watch them play, and they were fun to watch. Mm-hmm. I'm really impressed with Kano. Right? I'm really impressed with Kano's just body language and the way he handles himself. I don't know him yet personally. I look forward to meeting him and getting to know him, but he seems, for a young kid who's got a lot of talent, he seems pretty humble. He seems pretty calm. He seems to take the bag shots, waiting for the good shots, not freaking out emotionally like you see some of these younger players. So that just draws me more to him even more and makes me more of a fan when I see that body language. Any thoughts on those two, Mike?
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree with you, and I'm just going to underline what you said about I like his presence. I'll call it the presence on the boards. I think he's got more of he just feels like he's been around longer than he has. I have talked to him quite a bit, and he does seem to have a very solid and grounded head on his shoulders. So I'm interested to see what the season brings for him.
Nice. Yeah, and one of their notable wins there was going through Guy Graham. They did get that win, 21-19 in that bracket. So that's as good as it gets. So to take down a team like that, huge for them.
And Noah Wooten is playing like the Noah Wooten maybe that we thought we were going to see last season. He's just been lighting it up. This is the Noah Wooten of old. And again, maybe even better than the Noah Wooten of old.
When was that incredible shot? Was that in the final? Was it a double bar soap? What did he do? There's something amazing. I just remember going, what in the world did I just witness?
We were seeing quite a few bar of soaps this weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
I saw Mark Richards hit like 3.
Mark Richards, I know.
So
I remember
think people
when bar
are
of soap
recognizing
were accidents.
Right.
And now we're seeing them frequently.
So here's how it develops, right? And maybe we'll just get a little sciencey for a minute. But not only are people recognizing the setup more, but with this new breed of carpetbaggers, a lot more carpetbaggers in the game, you're ending in stacked, or you call it covers, I think, Mike. Yeah. You're ending up in these stacked positions a lot more and more. You're attempting a roll. You don't get quite all of it, but you end up in a stack. Players are now recognizing that setup. Push bags are improving, and people are taking advantage of that and having a lot of success with the bar soap. I mean,
I'm here for it. I am here for it.
You absolutely nailed it. We're seeing more and more of them, but I think the key is the player IQ. They're seeing the potential for the bar soap way more than they had seen it in the past. Therefore, that leads to a lot more attempts and a lot more successes.
Hey, but speaking of doubles, I'm sorry, who got one of those bracket wins and who predicted that win? Can you remind me?
Misha's on it, man. Misha's on it. Nostradamus up in here.
Oh man, it wasn't that hot of a hot take, but I got to take my credit when I can.
Sure.
But Wiedenfield, that was still impressive. Almanza Wiedenfield. I said I loved that team. I thought that was going to be fun to watch, even though I wasn't sure how the bag, because there was the whole can Almanza throw a carpet, and I don't know. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, you nailed it. So we said no Ryan Smith in the field, which makes Ryan Wiedenfield available. We said no Duncan Clemmer in the field, which makes Almanza available. These two team up, and like you said, we said, how does Noah throw a carpet bag in competition? Can he do that? And the answer, like you said, damn good.
He did okay.
Almanza,
okay.
Real good. Win their bracket with carpet, second overall. Wiedenfield is special. I think, we keep talking about rookie of the years. There's no doubt he is in that mix of rookie of the years. He could definitely be one that comes out and takes down that title. I'm excited to see him do that too.
But they didn't win. And we talked a lot about Mark Richards and is there going to be a sophomore slump? And I don't think we can make any predictions about that even after this weekend quite yet. But the fact that Mark Richards and Philip Lopez Jr., and we'll talk about singles in a second, but how well they both did, but especially Philip Lopez did in singles. I don't know if we're going to see a sophomore slump from these guys.
Definitely not as a team. I mean, they are still tough as a team, and individually, when we get to singles, we'll talk a little bit about it, but at least early, there's no indication of a sophomore slump. What do you think about this sophomore slump, Mike? You think that that's a thing? History says it's going to happen.
It's a thing. It's a thing. And sometimes the sophomore slump maybe takes a little more than, you don't start slumping until you're the tail end of your second year and then maybe the beginning of your third year. But the players that just have a boom in their rookie year, they a lot of them, not all, do come back down to earth within about a year or two. Maybe they rejoin the pack.
We'll see. But that didn't happen this weekend. Mark Richards, Philip Lopez Jr. do take the win and are impressive, not just on their doubles play, but on singles. Anything to add into doubles before we move on to singles, guys?
Maybe just one last thought. We talked a little bit about Gore and Trey Birchfield. Birchfield seemed to have this interesting success when teaming up with the 12 and 13-year-old,
the kids,
insane players, kids in this. Didn't happen this time. So the streak is broke. I think they ended up like 17th, somewhere way down there in their bracket. But we were keeping a close eye on that one to see if Birchfield could keep that streak going. But it happens. It happens.
And it happened. All right, moving into singles. Yeah, it is tough to stay at the top. Moving into singles, we alluded to it earlier. Caden Allen being the real standout player, not just in Open 2, but Open 1 as well. So continuing his success. But we also saw some impressive play from a lot of other people. I mean, Nate Stevens, incredible to watch. Logan Chamberlain. I don't know. Did you guys see Jamie Graham's post before Singles Day?
Yes.
So what do we think? Do we think the football ruined his chances of winning?
Hey, if the guy is saying it did, I believe him. So basically, for those not familiar, apparently Jamie Graham thought it'd be a good idea to chuck a football around a little bit before singles. Jacked his arm up. He ended up, I want to say, second to last in his bracket.
33rd place bracket finish.
Yep. So he's tied. I don't know. What do you have, Mike? Like maybe 7 people tied for 33rd or something like that. There's a lot. And the only other position below that is the other like 13 players tied at 49th. So
yeah, say prediction. Jamie Graham never throws a football again in his life.
Done. He is
You
done.
just stole a hot take.
Yeah, okay. That's my hot take for later. All right. Just pretend you didn't do that. I'll edit that back. That's not possible. It's just gonna roll. All right. We got a few more minutes here, but let's just go ahead and touch on singles, Anthony.
Talk a little bit about Bobby Hunt. I was really impressed with him in singles. He ended up having a strong run, taking 5th. Another dirty style player, I think that could make some noise in the league. Philip Lopez, aka Phillips Lopez, who's picking up his speed this year with the new shot clock.
Funny.
This dude is not just Mark Richards' partner.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm happy for this guy to make a run like that, to say, hey, yes, I am a world champ behind the A player, Mark Richards, but I am an elite level player in myself. People forget he finished 11th in singles last season, kind of quietly, because I think there was a lot of attention around his partner, but this dude is no joke. I was excited to see him make his own run in singles. Tough day for Brett Guy, last in his bracket. I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen something like that out of Brett Guy in a while. Again, a lot of amateur talent. He could have just ran into some players that were hot at the moment, taking the L's. We talked about Caden Allen. This kid's different. Something is different. So 2 opens, 2 bracket wins. The kid's 2 for 2 in open bracket wins. Statistically, he's off the charts. I mean, if you look at some of these stats, he almost looks, it's weird. He reminds me of a carpet or dirty style thrower, just in his technique and how he plays.
Yeah.
But he's not throwing a carpet bag, and he's just filling up the hole with high frequency. He's going to be special. I don't think he's officially signed his contract.
He needs sponsors. He can't sign until he gets sponsors, and I can't believe he doesn't have sponsors.
Sponsors, where are you at?
Who's sleeping out there?
Yeah. Hey, I think the kid might need some help. Someone to make one phone call on his behalf. I promise you he's going to get a sponsor. This is a kid that could come. Now, to be fair, he's going to be out of the PDC. He missed that age by days or something like that.
5 days is what I heard.
Because of his age, he's going to be coming out of the PDC. But there is no doubt that he will come out of the PDC and he will jack up pro brackets. Yeah. Essentially being like a Jack Gore who was still in the run for top 10 coming out of the PDC. He might even be that much better. So
Caden Allen will come out of every PDC field that he enters for the Nationals.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this show got him a little visibility. Sponsors, give this guy a contract. Oh my gosh.
I mean, he's 17. He's being realistic. He's like, I need travel money. Like, this isn't going to happen unless someone steps up. So, I mean, let's help the guy out.
Yeah, finish off with just 2 more here, Mike. Sorry, and then you can jump in here. Noah Wooten. How freaking good is Noah Wooten right now? I mean,
insane.
Does anyone use more different bags? Is that a sentence?
All over the place.
Does anyone use different bags more than Noah Wooten? You never know what he's going to walk up to the board with. Ever.
Yeah, he doesn't have like that tried and true, that's what he's throwing. Like, it's like the bags that it's like all dirty and worn, and like it doesn't have it. It's just all over the place.
Yeah, he uses whatever. And then my last thought, I definitely want to give Nate Stevens some props. If you look at all last season, every time we brought up Nate Stevens, I kept saying, this guy's sneaky good. He never really busted out deep into brackets, but here's a case where he's showing that he has it. I was able to partner up with him in a blind draw when I was doing the pro thing 2 or 3 years back. So I really there's nothing better than being a partner across from someone to really see how talented they are, because you're constantly seeing their decision-making, scenarios, how they handled it. And I was really impressed walking out of that blind draw tournament with Nate Stevens. And I was like, man, this guy is good, and no one's really talking about him. So really happy to see him make a deep run and show really the nation that he has an elite level style of play.
And just a really, really good guy too, on top of being a great player.
He's a great guy.
Great guy. Mike, I know you had some information to share with us about consistency. You want to spend the next few minutes talking about that?
Yeah, so we've talked about how great the field has gotten, not just in the pro division, but the open division as well. So how hard it is to go into these places and finish well. So I want to give some props out to the players that finished well in both of the first two opens of the year. Of course, not everybody played in two opens. I believe we had 69 players participate in both opens, in singles I'm talking about. So at the top of my list, Caden Allen. I mean, technically he got better, but he won his bracket in both opens. This time he takes down the whole field. So Caden Allen, as far as bracket finishes go, he's the only player to take down two brackets so far this year in singles. Noah Wooten came in second in Rock Hill in his bracket and brings home a bracket win in Louisville. Let's see, Nate Stevens, 7th place in Rock Hill, 1st place in Louisville in his bracket. Matt Guy, a 5th in Rock Hill, 2nd in Louisville, so that's pretty consistent. How about Mr. Alex Hicks, Baby Goat, with a 2nd place in Rock Hill and a 3rd place bracket finish in Louisville. So again, super consistent.
Yeah. And
then I'll just close my list with a couple other names here. Ryan Wiedenfeld took home a 4th and a 5th. And I guess I got to give him a couple more. Matt Guy, 5th and a 2nd. Alec Ryan, a 5th and a 5th. So those are your consistent players between the first two opens of the year. A couple notable names that this may not be a trend, but you should pay attention to. Joe Niestedt went from 3rd in Rock Hill to 17th in Louisville. We already talked about Jamie Graham. He went from a bracket win in Rock Hill to 33rd in Louisville. And
just the football. It was just the football, Mike. He'll be right back.
Yeah, just the football. Nothing to worry about. Trevor Brooks, 3rd in Rock Hill in his bracket, 49th in Louisville.
Yes, good call.
So, again, is it something to worry about this year early in the year? I don't think so, but we need to watch and see if maybe there's a trend there. And then the last one that had any sort of significant drop-off that finished well in Rock Hill was Trey Birchfield. He went from 5th in Rock Hill to 17th in Louisville. So I remember a time when we would have never dreamed that Trey would come in as low as 5th in his bracket, let alone dropping down to a 17th. So I think that's a testament to how strong the field has gotten.
I couldn't agree more. All right, guys. Well, it's time for our hot take section. I don't know if you have one ready, Mike, but do you have one, Anthony?
Yeah, I can't deny. We cannot deny Wooten's play right now. I got to throw him a hot take. Bracket winner at a national, I would say definitely Noah Wooten winning a bracket in singles at a pro national, giving him a chance to get on that ESPN broadcast for a final. Noah Wooten's coming, and he's working hard. He's continuing to work hard, so I think it's a good call.
Good. Mike, do you have one for us?
I do.
Okay.
My hot take is, for all the sponsors out there, Caden Allen will be on ESPN this year.
Okay, mine's a Caden Allen one too, but it was different. Okay, cool. So mine is that Caden Allen wins his next bracket. I think he's going to go 3 in a row. Let's go, Caden.
3 in a row. Let's go. That'd be awesome.
And you think he's going to win his next bracket? I say he's going to win. I think he's going to win a pro singles event.
Yeah.
Or a bracket. Sorry, pro singles bracket to make it to ESPN.
Yeah,
that's still hot. To win the whole thing is really hot.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Out of the PDC to win a tournament. Wow.
Amazing. And then to round it all out, Jamie Graham will never throw football again in his life.
Yeah, there you go. Done.
We all agree on that hot take.
Done.
Exactly. All right, guys, that's it for our show this week. We'll see you guys all next time.